What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and welcome to the final iteration of being able to spam your supers with the help of Crown of Tempests for Prismatic Warlock. Our super for this video is going to be Winter's Wrath. Last but certainly not least, in fact, this build kind of surprised me with how useful it is even outside of Court of Blades, just in everyday activities, and I think you guys are really going to like it. The way that I've got this build set up is you're going to be able to spam two different types of empowerments, not just your super, and what it's going to basically be able to do is help you guys deal an insane amount of damage virtually at any time with virtually all of your abilities and your weapons. So I hope you guys like this build. Let's go. All right, everyone, so you guys saw the damage numbers. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but that is respectable damage for arguably the weakest Warlock super in the game, being Winter's Wrath. So we're going to go through it, what we did to try to enhance it, what we're doing to double down on the roaming super damage fall off compared to instant burst supers or even Storm Chance. And I'm going to show you guys how you can build Winter's Wrath into a respectable DPS type build for Prismatic Warlock. So first up, we got to equip Winter's Wrath. Cast out a barrage of stasis shards that freeze targets. Cast out a shockwave that shatters all frozen targets. While frozen target is shattered, they take damage and deal damage to nearby targets. Shatter damage causes unstoppable champions to be stunned, and the target is trapped in stasis matter and is unable to move. After taking additional damage while frozen, the target shatters. So a couple of different things going on with this super. Nothing new to anyone who has ever tried this super before, but what we're about to go through is kind of a different play style to double up on your ability damage as well as stack it with your super damage. So let me get into it real quick. For abilities, we're going to be going with Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Arcane Needle, Storm Grenade. Now our play here is going to be using Arcane Needle in the Lightning Surge, which I'm going to get to here in 1 second. And for a little bonus jolt action, we're going to be going with our Storm Grenade. So these two are pivotal for this build. For aspects, we're going to be going with Lightning Surge. While sliding, activate your charge melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as you rematerialize. Targets that are hit by your lightning strikes grant you stacks of bolt charge. So our main gameplay here, if you haven't seen the previous videos, number one, I would encourage you to go look at them. And just check them out and see if any of those can work for you. But more importantly, our main goal here with this build is to spam our Lightning Surge as much as possible. Unlike the other builds that I came up with Crown of Tempests and spamming Lightning Surge, this one is going to go one step further. So once we get through the fragments, I'm going to explain how. Feed the Void is our next aspect. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. Because we're practically going to have Devour and Amplified and Bolt Charge the entire time, you're not going to ever have to worry about recharging your grenade. You're pretty much always going to have it. On top of that, you're going to be getting restored health, by continuing to deal damage as well as final blows. Now, one important thing about Devour, if you are not aware, final blows restore health, grant grenade energy, and extend Devour. That does not mean you have to use abilities. That is literally just any final blow that you deal, weapon and or other. For fragments, we're going to be going with Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants us Frost Armor. Frost Armor, you're fortified in layers of durable stasis matter, reducing incoming damage. Frost Armor damage resistance grows stronger as you gain additional stacks. We are going to be generating a lot of orbs of power, so we are going to be gaining Frost Armor on a very regular basis. We will also be gaining stacks of Bolt Charge through our abilities, and of course, Bolt Charge grants us melee energy on top of it. Next up, we've got Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. Because we're going to be maining light and darkness damage type weapons, it should not be hard for us to gain Transcendence. In fact, you're going to be gaining Transcendence very easily and very often, and we're going to get to that here in a second. Facet of Sacrifice is next up. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Like I said, we're going to be amplified. We're going to have Bolt Charge. And that's going to drive us to getting bonus Darkness Transcendence energy because our main ad clear, at least what I'm using, is going to be a light damage weapon. So depending on how things switch up with this, you could switch out Facet of Sacrifice for... Oh, which one is it here? Facet of Courage, depending on the weapon that you pick out. Or you could theoretically switch this out with Facet of Command, but you're going to have to figure out how exactly you want to play. How I have it set up right now, I think is going to be most beneficial without actually wasting a fragment slot. Next up, we got Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows. Generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. We've got a lot of different damages going on here, so we're just going to roll through it. We're going to generate Ionic Trace as a bolt of pure arc energy that travels along the ground, seeking towards its creator. When picked up, Ionic Traces grant ability energy. We're going to be getting that from our Storm Grenade as well as our Lightning Surge. We're also going to be generating Stasis Shards, a small shard of stasis matter that can be collected to restore melee energy. So this is going to play perfectly into our melee spam of our Lightning Surge. Another one that we might or might not generate would be a Tangle and not a Strand Matter. Swirling with potential, Tangles can be shot and destroyed or picked up and thrown, dealing damage. Defeating targets affected by any Strand debuff will unwind them and create a Tangle. So if by chance you are just picking enemies off with your Arcane Needle, which is not the way that we are trying to play this build, you will be able to generate Tangles, which will deal, additional damage when you shoot them and or throw them. Last but not least is going to be Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. The main playstyle of this build series is going to be generating as much jolt as possible, granting you stacks of Bolt Charge. Now, you can substitute this out for a few different things depending on your playstyle. You can substitute this out for Facet of Honor, Facet of Dawn, or possibly even Facet of Protection. And we're going to go one step further. If you want to swap it out for Facet of Ruin to enhance your Shatter ability, whether you shatter a Stasis Crystal or a frozen target, you will deal additional damage. On the clip that you saw in the intro, I did not have this equipped. I have tried it, and to be perfectly honest, it's not that big of a difference. However, in regular nightfalls, things like that, regular everyday activities, you might actually notice a difference because of the damage increase and how often you are going to be shattering stasis crystals and or frozen targets. This will also depend on the weapon choices that you pick. If you have something with Headstone, that might make or break whether or not you put Facet of Ruin on. So this build is going to be dependent on you, and more so if you kind of understand the mechanic that we are going to go for. So let me get into the mechanic right now. Up here, I'm highlighting Transcendence. I don't ever highlight Transcendence or the Freezing Singularity on any Prismatic Warlock build. It's just something that I think every Warlock understands. It's something that everyone looking at my videos understands. I really don't need to go through these because these are just given on every Prismatic Warlock. However, our style of play is going to be slightly tweaked with this build compared to the other builds that I had when running Needle Storm, Nova Bomb, Song of Flame, or Storm Trance. And that is Transcendence is going to play a big role here. We are going to be spamming not just Winter's Wrath, but Transcendence. So our goal, before we get into the stats of armor and the weapons, our goal is to be able to proc Transcendence as fast as possible. Once we do that, we're going to take the increased ability regeneration as well as the weapon damage, and we are going to generate our super in no time, on top of using our Lightning Surge. So how this is going to work is, whatever you get first is whatever you get first. If you get your super first, you get your Transcendence first, fine, whatever, just use it, okay? Once you get Transcendence and you don't have a super generated, or it's the very little of it is generated, pop Transcendence and start spamming Lightning Surge on everything. everything, including bosses, including champs, including gobs of enemies, including 1 target, including 10 targets. It doesn't matter. Spam your Transcendence and get your Lightning Surge kills so that as soon as Transcendence is done, you can proc Winter's Wrath. Now, what's going to happen is because you are generating because you are generating your super as well as your Transcendence energy by using all of your different abilities and your weapons. How this is going to work is we are essentially going to be alternating between Transcendence and Winter's Wrath within reason the entire activity that we find ourselves in. So how it's going to work is this. You pop your Transcendence, you spam the crap out of your Lightning Surge, and then you turn around, and once your Transcendence ends, you're going to throw out some weapon damage, get your Transcendence back. At the minimum, try to get your light Transcendence generated, which is going to be easy, giving our heavy weapon of choice. And then go ahead and pop open Winter's Wrath. Winter's Wrath is going to give you all the Darkness Transcendence energy that you didn't get from spamming your heavy weapon. And then once your super is done, guess what you have again? You got it, Transcendence. So what you're going to use with Transcendence is you're going to rinse and repeat. You're going to spam the crap out of your Lightning Surge, and you're going to basically regenerate your super with the help of Transcendence. But what Transcendence does is it gives you your abilities back even faster and increases your weapon damage. So the more enemies that you damage with either your weapons or your abilities, the more your Transcendence lasts, which means theoretically you will be able to generate a super from 0 to full while Transcendence and still have, frankly, a buttload of Transcendence energy left over if you play this right. And to be perfectly honest, it's not that hard. I'm going to show you a clip right now. And as you see in that clip, I get it. It's a controlled environment. But the point I'm trying to make is you can use Transcendence to generate your super, increase your ability regen, also increase your weapon damage. So if you do want to bust out your heavy weapon to try to help get your super back, you can do that because, again, weapon damage directly correlates to your roaming super. And with Winter's Wrath, your only benefit from, spamming Transcendence is that you can go back into Winter's Wrath, use a bunch of abilities or whatever, use your weapons and pop Transcendence and repeat the cycle again. So you're going to be popping Transcendence and Winter's Wrath as frequently as you humanly possibly can. And to be perfectly honest, when I saw those damage numbers, I was a little shocked. I understand it's just a regular Court of Blades, and I understand that in an expert Court of Blades, things are going to be different. The amount of damage you output is going to be different. Surges are going to matter. It just happened to be a stasis surge on that Court of Blades run. But once you get into the rhythm of getting your Transcendence as fast as possible, using it to help get your super back, and then using your super to again get Transcendence procced again. You're going to virtually have, you're either going to be in Transcendence or Winter's Wrath the entire activity that you might find yourself in, with the exception of when you have to go in between encounters. Okay, I'm thinking raids, I'm thinking, you know, maybe some Vanguard strikes, but anything where you're going to be dealing with a decent amount of adds, even something like Dares of Eternity, where you're going to see all three champs, you're going to have an answer for all three champs. And that's going to make you, I mean, you're virtually going to be empowered the entire time. So if there's anything that confused you about what I just said, including a clip, make sure you rewind, just try to visualize what I'm saying, watch the clip again, and then maybe once you get a little bit comfortable with the mechanic you're going to have to kind of rely on and the timing of it all, take it into your favorite strike, your favorite, you know, activity, whatever it is. I probably wouldn't run this directly into a GM for obvious reasons, but get used to how it is and let me know in the comments what you guys think, because I struggled to find Winter's Wrath enjoyable. However, the way I'm playing it with this build, I honestly can't complain. I'm not going to say it's God tier, okay? Let's face it. It's just not. But it is pretty darn close to some of the love I have for other super spam classes. So anyways, I'm going to move on. Go ahead and rewind. If anything I said was confusing, or drop a comment, hop into the Discord, discuss with me, let me know what you guys think, and let me know how it's working for you, because it worked a lot better for me than I honestly thought I was going to be able to tell you guys. As far as stat distribution, I recommend focusing on resilience, strength, and discipline. At minimum, you want your recovery and your intellect to be at least at a T3. Any higher than that is just a bonus, and your mobility doesn't matter. At minimum, I want you to have your strength at least at a T7. Any lower than that, it's going to be hard to generate your charge melees as often as you'd like them, even with all the buffs that you're going to have with this class. Same thing with discipline. A T6 is probably the minimum that I would go for your discipline. So if you find yourself struggling to make ends meet, so to speak, at least at a bare minimum, try to get your strength as high as possible and max out your resilience. For weapons, I'm going to go over what you saw in the intro clip, and then I'm going to explain in each slot how you can substitute. In the opening clip, I ran with Lost Signal. Lost Signal is great for generating huge amounts of Darkness Transcendence energy. And again, our goal is going to be switching between Darkness Transcendence energy and our super. So while it's generating Darkness Transcendence energy, the amount of tick damage is also going to correlate to our super regeneration. If you don't want to use Lost Signal, you can use literally any of the following. For general ad clear, you can go with Luminal Vigil, Bold Endings with a little bit of bump to your super back because of dealer's choice, Peace Bond, Multimac, or Veiled Threat. Any of those will be excellent options for general ad clear. If you want to run an exotic in this slot, I highly recommend either Wicked Implement if you're going to be firing from a distance, or for Outbreak Perfected. If you're looking for total champ control, I recommend Riptide or Tanasha's Mastery. Tanasha's Mastery can stun all three champs through the rest of this season, so as long as it's not bugging out on you, you can put this in here and handle any champ that comes your way. In the energy slot, I ran with Subjunctive. Now, Subjunctive is not going to blow the doors off of anyone's, ears, so to speak, when I say Subjunctive is the way to go here. Subjunctive, if you don't have it, you don't have it. But what you want to be able to do is put out a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. Vol Shot is not my preferred arc debuff or arc, ability with a weapon. I do prefer Jolting Feedback. So if you don't have a good Subjunctive, you can absolutely swap it out for a Noxious Vetiver or a Vantage Point. My goal here is to generate as much weapon damage as possible, which is going to correlate to my roaming super. So if you don't want to use Subjunctive, or you don't want to have your main ad clear weapons be in the energy slot, I recommend either using Trespasser just for the sake of piercing barrier champs. You could run with Centrifuge if you want. You can run with Lodestar if you want. You could also run with Prosecutor. However, if you're going to use this as kind of a backup DPS slot, I recommend Indebted Kindness, Iterative Loop, or Psychopomp. All of these are going to generate huge amounts of light transcendence energy, and then it's going to come down to you spamming your darkness transcendence energy weapons in the kinetic slot. For the heavy weapon, good old Thunderlord makes it another win for this style build. However, if you don't like Thunderlord, or if you want to switch out to some legendary weapons, I do have some pretty decent fun ones. Number one on the fun list is going to be Dimensional Hippotrochoid. There's really no purpose for using this weapon other than like an onslaught, or that's pretty much it. Maybe just general Vanguard play. But if you've never used this weapon before, it's pretty fun to use. And to be honest, the chain reaction is pretty awesome. I just put this in here as a fun option. I'm by no means saying that this is like the way of the samurai by any means. Other good options would be Coiffeur, VS Chill Inhibitor with Demolitionist and Bait and Switch. You could go with Watchful Eye with Jolting Feedback and Overflow. And if you want to go with like a rocket launcher, you could go with Bump in the Night. Stats for All and Chill Clip is a smart move. You can go with Crux Termination, Reconstruction, and Bipod. And you can go with the good old Palmyra, still holding strong after all these years. Auto-loading holster and explosive light, because you're going to be picking up Orbs of Power. You'll never just be firing a boring rocket launcher round. It's going to always be a bonus. For a relatively fun alternative, as far as the exotic goes, you could spec into Salvation's Grip. Now, what you're going to have to do is, because this is a heavy weapon, it's going to generate an obscene amount of Darkness Transcendence energy, which means you're going to have to compensate by generating an obscene amount of Light Transcendence energy. So it might be a good idea to switch out to Psychopomp as opposed to the Lost Signal if you do equip this. But again, let me know in the comments which combinations work for you guys. And also let me know if there's other weapons that you liked better than the ones I suggested. And again, this is not a one-size-fits-all. The style of gameplay is focused on abilities first. So your weapons are going to be specific to whatever you guys feel is best. But either way, just let me know, because honestly, this build turned out quite a bit better than I honestly thought it would. And the fact that you can be arguably more flexible with this build than some of the other, builds surrounding Winter's Wrath makes this, it's good in its own entity, so to speak. For Crown of Tempests, we're going to be proccing Conduction Tines. While you have an Arc ability equipped, Arc ability or Jolt Final Blows increase the recharge rate of your abilities and extend the duration of Storm Chance. So we're not going to be taking advantage of the extended duration of Storm Chance. However, we are going to be getting our abilities back insanely fast. Whether we're using our Grenade, our Lightning Surge, or our Arcane Needle, or yes, even Transcendence, we're going to be able to increase the recharge rate of our abilities as long as Conduction Tines is procced. Now, before you guys hammer me in the comments, yes, I'm aware that Transcendence is not going to proc Conduction Tines. However, if we use Lightning Surge during Transcendence, it still will. And we're going to be using our Transcendence to constantly refresh our melee ability. I recommend putting on the Siphon of your Add Clear weapon of choice, put on Double Hands On, and whatever general mods you need, and of course, proc the Artifice Armor mod if you have a Cypher available. For the gauntlets, we're going to be running with 3 heavy-handed so that every 1 second we can generate an orb of power, which will give us a stack of frost armor, and then whatever minor mod you need to compensate. For the chest armor, go ahead and put on the reserve ammo mod for the heavy weapon of choice, whether that is a stasis or an arc weapon, whatever you guys want to do. Heck, I guess you could even put microcosm on there if you want. Either way, put the reserve mod on for the heavy weapon specifically. Don't worry about the special ammo weapon. You're going to generate plenty of it. Go ahead and put on 2 resistance mods and whatever major mod that you need for your armor bump. For the legs, go ahead and put on 1 absolution and 1 invigoration. The final spot is going to be up to you. I recommend either an innervation, recuperation, or possibly even a arc weapon surge or, a heavy weapon surge mod of your choice, since you are going to have armor charges very regularly. If you do that, you will not be able to do what I did, which is use a 4 energy cost general armor mod. You're going to have to drop it down so that you can make room. But whatever you guys need to do to make it work, at least run with these 2. For the class item, go ahead and put on Reaper and Outreach. Font to Restoration is probably your best play here, although you can make a case for another Reaper or you can make a case for Distribution, and then go ahead and put on whatever armor mods that you need to balance yourself out. For the artifact, go ahead and pick based on what weapons you choose to have. You'll notice that I don't have a Trace Rifle equipped. That's fine. It really just depends on champ needs. I also don't have a rocket launcher equipped, so again, it's going to depend on champ needs. I'm not going to be hurting for not having overload machine guns because, of course, Thunderlord stuns overload champions, intrinsically. So it's really going to depend on you guys. If you go with the legendary version, make sure you put this on. In the second column, go ahead and put on overclock and load, and go ahead and put on Vile Weave. No, we're probably not going to take advantage of Vile Weave very often, but on the event that we do activate our Arcane Needle outside of the Lightning Surge aspect, you'll be able to proc a Tangle, and of course your Tangles will sever targets. In the third column, go ahead and put on Photonic Flare and Dielectric. We want Bolt Charge as fast as possible, and because I'm using a Arc Heavy and AI Clear weapon, defeating an exhausted or severed target with arc damage releases a blinding burst. Now, you're going to be exhausting targets by disrupting them. So if you aren't disrupting targets, this probably won't be that great for you. So just go ahead and put on Hold the Line, or if you're using a rocket launcher, Perpetual Destruction. In the third column, Gold from Lead is going to be big here. Picking up a special ammo has a chance to grant heavy ammo because we're going to be spamming our Thunderlord, and we don't have any heavy ammo mods. This is going to be a good one to put on. I have Harsh Refraction for the times that I did mess around with trace rifles. However, if you don't want to do that, you could swap this out. You can pick another one back here if you want, or I guess you can theoretically put the Dreadful Finisher up here if you do like using your finisher. But at minimum, make sure you have Flashover. In the final column, Heavy Ordnance Regeneration is going to be the game plan here, and while boosted, it's going to, while Heavy Ordnance Regeneration is active, defeating powerful combatants disorients nearby rank and file combatants. That's going to be a nice little bump to you as well. And last but not least, and this is important, make sure you have Limit Break on. Casting a super while you are critically wounded or have an elemental buff matching your super element grants a period of increased super damage. So as long as you have picked up an Orb of Power, you will be able to get extra damage from your Winter's Wrath. This is pivotal in making sure that you generate as much damage as possible with your super. But for the rest of this, I know I went over when I went over, but depending on your weapon choices, you may have something a little bit different. Just make sure you have your Arc artifact mods equipped. And probably a Gold from Lead or a Dreadful Finisher. So either way. So one of the reasons I think you should try this build, number one, and probably the only reason I can actually give you, is this build is better than I thought it would be. I honestly thought that I was going to be making a video that says, look, this super, there's literally nothing we can do to enhance it. It is only good in very niche situations. I'm thinking like PvP, Crucible, Trials maybe even. But for PvE, I mean, yeah, it's good in Onslaught, but there's just so many better options. Well, I'm here to tell you today, folks, that I was proven wrong, and I still can't believe that I'm even giving this super any kind of credence in terms of it being compared to the other supers that Warlock offers. It just simply isn't the same. When you combine it on Prismatic with your Transcendence spam, and you can alter between both of them, you have a way to be able to freeze, suppress, jolt, targets pretty much the entire time that you're alternating between the two with very little effort from your actual ad clear and your energy weapons or your special ammo weapons or heavy weapons. You can proc one or the other or both virtually at any time during any activity. In Onslaughts, that's going to be huge. In Nightfalls, that's going to be huge. Is it viable in a GM? It's hard to say. You're going to have to mod for champs first and foremost. Once you do that, it's really going to depend on how, number one, what GM you're going to be throwing it into. Something like Birthplace to the Vile probably won't be that bad, but if you're going to be rolling, in the Neptune GM or maybe Scarlet Keep, I don't know that this is really going to be viable. However, something like maybe the Arms Dealer, I think it will be valuable. But again, it's really just going to depend on you guys, how you use it, and obviously how you mod your weapons, because your weapons are going to be what dictates how efficiently you are able to handle champs. And that's what this build is going to have a little bit of an issue conquering. That's not to say that you can't figure it out. Okay, so I don't want anyone seeing this video and going, well, I've got no way to handle champs, and I don't really like the super, and I don't like Lightning Surge, and blah, blah, blah. You can still handle champs with the weapons, okay? So at least you know, give the credence that you can to your weapons, you know, if you're going to be running against champs. However, you really only have to account for 2 champs. So let that be something that sticks in the back of your mind next time you're thinking about taking this into a lost sector or something that has champs in general. And I know I just said champs like a bunch of times, and I'm really sorry, but you guys are going to be able to make this build your own. And quite honestly, I think this is one that hopefully people are talking about in the comments, because I'd really like to see some of the different combinations you guys come up with. Because what I have worked for me, you might find something that works even better for you. So if you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a guardian out there who's looking for a different way to use Crown of Tempests and Winter's Wrath, as well as doing melee spams, and has the option to pick a variety of different weapons to make this build work, feel free to share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. If you guys are by chance looking for a non-toxic gaming community, I recommend hopping into my Discord. We got a lot of great people in there. It's starting to kind of take off, and there's always people in there willing to help with virtually any activity. And there is gaining interest in doing endgame activities. So if that's something that, you know, for the solo players watching this video that, you know, are scared to ask for help because they've had toxic LFG groups or, you know, dead clans or even toxic clans, I'm here to try to help you guys, you know, as best as I can. I may not be able to host every single thing that I want to, just because I do so many of these videos, but I will at least help you guys, you know, meet other gamers like yourselves who just want to have some friends to pal around with. And that's what it's all about in my Discord. So shout out to my Discord for being, you know, what it is. It wouldn't be such a non-toxic gaming community without the people that are in it. And that's the truth. They are the reason it's not toxic. So anyways, if that's of any interest, feel free to hop in. It is, of course, no obligation. It won't affect whether or not I keep making these builds or not. Anyways, I'm going to switch over to another highlight video. I'm just going to walk through a couple more things, and then, yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show 3 different clips real quick of 3 different bosses and just different things I did when facing them. This first one was just Thunderlord. Here's the second one. I'm able to expand on what I was talking about earlier with the going between the Transcendence as well as Winter's Wrath. Of course, the boss is a little bit swirly, so if you do find yourself in a situation, that could prove to be a little bit annoying with this roaming super, because once your super is popped, you're in it. But as I said before, I'm using my lightning surge on bosses, on everything. So this one, no different. I'm using my lightning surge, I'm using my weapon, I'm keeping my Transcendence procced, and even though I airmailed my grenade, I just kept going, and there you saw right there, I went straight from Transcendence into Winter's Wrath, thereby compounding the DPS that I'm able to generate. This last clip is my best example of how it can work very well for you. You've got a boss, you've got some ads around, you've got different variations. You can see I didn't start with either of those procced, either my super or Transcendence, and I'm just whittling down my cooldown for Transcendence. And oh, by the way, I got my super back first. So I'm going to cast my super. I'm going to freeze and shatter and all those things with this boss, as well as some of the surrounding ads. And then once that's all said and done, look at where I am. I'm basically at Transcendence, and this was kind of poorly timed, but here we go. I'm just going to use some abilities. I'm going to clear out, you know, one couple of enemies, and here we go. We're Transcendent, and just look at the super bar. I'm using this on the boss. I'm using this on, you know, an enemy that you wouldn't necessarily think to spam your lightning surge on, and of course he threw me across the room. But we're just using our abilities to further reduce our cooldown for Transcendence, and it just ended just now. And now, last but not least, I'm using my Thunderlord to just absolutely unload, and when I run out of ammo, I'm switching back into my stasis super, which actually worked to my benefit there because I had some enemies run up on me. So anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know how it works for you. Let me know what weapons you use to customize. This build turned out way better than I thought it was going to, and I'm happy to share with you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.